Man, Hi-Fi Rush fucks so hard. I'm writing this for my divorce hearing. JK, I'm writing this May 7th, 2024. What the fuck? When Microsoft, the peeps that probably made your computer's OS or are competing with your Apple purchase because there's zero competition in the space, announced they were disbanding multiple studios under the Xbox name, namely Tango Gameworks, who created Hi-Fi Rush. Look, I've got lots to say about Xbox. Basically, no worthwhile exclusives. Game Pass had the promise of being amazing for helping small titles find an audience, but also no meaningful exclusives. And when they did have a shiny game to call their own, it just got ported since Xbox doesn't make things in-house. News people I follow have been saying this for a real-life decade, but things were going to theoretically turn around after they acquired studios like Double Fine and even fought the fucking FTC to buy Activision Blizzard. So now there's tiny guys lumped together under one of the worst conglomerates, which is lumped under one of the worst conglomerates. Optimistically, you could say this is an interesting way to get Xbox only games. For example, hypothetically, Call of Duty only being on Xbox would be an initially consumer unfriendly move, but in the long run a big win financially. These guys are driving me to talk like a business major. But they were trying to be all buddy and get caught on the Switch. They even put out a statement with Nintendo's old logo. Oh, I bet Furukawa was smiling about that one, huh, Phil? And speaking of Phil Spencer, the head honcho right now, he loves doing PR shit like this to make everyone like him. It was working for a while. They put out this quote saying, "Yeah, I support our teams making more creative stuff at the risk of max profit." And when people flipped out about that Redfall thing being terrible, and I never played it, but I heard it was really bad, Phil showed up in a YouTube interview to be like, "My bad, let's turn this around." In a post-Reggie world in which people are also aware of the dumb office politics behind the games they play, but still want to connect with the companies making them via a strong personality, that's pretty mature looking. If they got their studios to crank stuff out, not in concept, really crank stuff out like a Nintendo does, Xbox would be fine despite their legendary dry spell. But as of May 8th, that's all going to shit too, because they're shredding all these studios and ripping people's jobs and potential resume pieces that might be under NDA away from them. That doesn't just affect Hi-Fi Rush, I know that's the subject of the video, but even people who have fallen from grace or made a stinker like the Redfall guys don't deserve to lose their jobs. There's so much employee abuse and layoffs in the games industry, but it makes the least amount of sense here because this is fucking Microsoft. They can print their own money if things are that bad. Hey, William Fancyson, maybe if you didn't close the places, you'd actually have some games to put out. And maybe if you didn't demonstrate your love of money grubbing, Game Pass wouldn't look like a lie to indie devs and a Ponzi scheme to consumers. Just insane self-sabotage right here. After all the Activision crap and now this, I'm seriously tired of hearing or thinking about Xbox. I mean, just look at me, green girl over here. Okay, you can stop. You can make eye contact with me. But they need to get this green bullshit out of my face. Hi-Fi Rush's team getting exploded back then is extra baffling and exhausting. That game was the only one of Xbox's timed exclusives to be overall positively received in 2023, and it managed to sell great on console and PC. They said it was a success. I'm so overjoyed it got ported because it was totally out of my grasp. Tango, known for their Evil Within games and Ghostwire Tokyo, made this thing. The studio was founded by Shinji Mikami, who directed the first Resident Evil game, and he wanted to bring up new talent into this cutthroat industry. Hi-Fi Rush also got revealed as a shadow drop in a fuck you, it's January direct, so its success is freaking awesome because it brought the hype without the hype cycle. Both of those factors made Tango's imminent closure even more tragic. Fortunately, there is some great news. Tango was purchased by Krafton, the PUBG publisher and creator of very heavy macaroni and cheese, so they don't have to shut down. It seems like everyone gets to stick around and Hi-Fi Rush is back, baby! But this is still a tragedy as the other studios don't seem to be getting saved. Well, after the closure, Hi-Fi got so much attention. Well, that's the other reason I'm making this video. Every time I try to see if this awesome game has a fun, long analysis video, it doesn't. It's just somebody's stream highlights where they don't even use the licensed music, the streamer mode is turned on, and the only video that isn't just criticizing Xbox while not discussing the actual contents of the game, made by King K, is Nebula exclusive. I'm not making a jab, King K's awesome, one of my favorite YouTubers, and he deserves to make some money, but I'm not making any money off this damn channel. So I'm scrutinizing this game as I think it deserves, because while it's not Jesus Christ reincarnated, it is one of the best pieces of art I've ever played and experienced. I don't usually include spoiler warnings in my more current videos, because usually I'm talking about a fairly well-known title, and I think the length speaks to what I'll be discussing, and this ain't no different. I'm walking through the entire game today for the sake of earnestly discussing it, but because of this game's unique vision, iffy listing status, and overall artistry, I'd implore you to just fucking buy this thing. It's so great. Hey, here's an idea. Maybe we treat this like a book club? Like, the stages are all pretty long, about an hour or so, but you could reasonably beat the game in a week or two. So maybe for each one you beat, you could come back and watch through that section here. I think that benefits everybody. I get the views and some comments. You don't get spoiled on a must-play game, and I really get to go to bat for the team's work. The instant you boot up, the game's personality is at max. The art style chock full of bright colors, gorgeous cell shading, and the Ben-Day dot inspired lighting, the rebelliously splintered logo, and of course that banging track that's optimistic and energetic. And true to the gameplay, everything sticks to the tempo. The detail that's just on this screen is worth the asking price alone, but it keeps getting better. We zip down to the file select, focusing on the MC's makeshift guitar while he flops on the couch. In game, you do that to start a mission, but it's also got this comfy familiarity to it when you open the game multiple times, while on the first playthrough it's a cool looking screen teasing later imagery. They use the difficulty selection menu to seamlessly transition to the opening, zooming in on the Project Armstrong poster with a color change to match the new scene's lighting. This is called filmmaking, but in a video game, especially because it loads up near instantly and feels flawless. The distorted riff even gets used to subtly mix in the game's first licensed song, Lonely Boy by the Black Keys, which gets used both in and out of universe during this cutscene because it's both the background track and playing muffled on Chai's earbuds. I used to use earbuds like this, but I found them really restrictive, and I'd always accidentally yank them out of my ears, and I couldn't wear them in the shower. It sucked. So fortunately, I was able to switch to a better product. Not telling you what it is though. The character and comic-like onomatopoeia flying around look great and helped you get to know Chai in a few seconds. High energy, zero brain cells, selfish, and short-sighted. The song matches his state at the start of the story. No friends or allies. He just shows up by himself. He's just such a delightful shithead throughout this whole opening. It's awesome. They also take the time to establish the setting as a capitalist dystopia that's masquerading as a philanthropic utopia. And we see key antagonists teasing us about the full conflict. Kale doesn't care about anything other than no defects. Soreka gets mad that people are accusing her of not doing her job right. And Mimosa is just seen trying to be convincing and charismatic. She is marketing after all. After Chai's MP3 player ends up on the futuristic operating table, wham! Title drop. And a DLC ad. Before we put on our clothes, I'm kind of feeling the beat already, and I'd rather dance naked. Oh, that's good stuff. The game's original soundtrack was done by a massive team, with the stuff behind all the regular levels being done by a bunch of goated Japanese guys. This first stage's tracks were done by Shuichi Kobori. The vocal track that plays later was done by him, but this goober named John Johannes, aka the director of the entire game, sang for it. After exposing myself to a bunch of funny robots and relatably stamping a shoe on, the writers decide it's time to insert conflict. The robots are gonna kill Chai unless he defends himself. His arm was supposed to make him a loser trash picker-upper, which is depressing, but he's got magnet powers that give him a guitar-shaped trash mass to fight with. Wait, did you guys fucking hear that? My controller yelled at me, that's fire! So here's a character action rhythm game hybrid, super cool, anyone could guess that's up my alley. And Chai slowly realizes the premise too, fueling his dreamlusions of being a rock star and taking us to tutorials on stage. I don't even care, being on stage makes me excited enough I can't wait to become educated. Have you ever been to a concert? The artist can say whatever and everyone's jumping up and down. Here's the very basics, light attacks take 1 beat to land, heavy attacks take 2. Obviously, you can mix things up in different ways, but there's even more basics we learned throughout the initial stage. How to chain a triple dash to draw in collectibles, attacking out of a dash, slamming down to the ground, and using a rest on the second beat of a combo to take enemies airborne. The game has these pretty typical character actions. It's not super innovative in terms of the base moveset, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but tying everything, including enemy tells, rigidly to the beat is such an amazing approach.
Rhythm games are too hard. I want to relax, but you gotta time it right.
Man, you don't gotta worry about that. It lowers the skill floor by making the timing for everything totally apparent at all times. So it's less easy to get overwhelmed learning new things, but the skill ceiling also gets raised because the rank chasers actually need to be on beat perfectly to raise their score enough. If you see me failing in this regard, nope, I'm goated as fuck. My TV has latency, make your own video, get out of my face. If you comment about this, you're kicked out of my Discord and Reddit and my Blue Sky and my Spotify album and my Instagram and my Twitter and my Facebook and my Space, and you are getting banned from the channel. Plus all the music of the game's in 4/4, so the beat's always easy to count. I felt a little disappointed that the OST didn't really deviate from that time signature because I'm such a sucker for jazz and classical music, but 4/4 is really important to this gameplay approach because all the combos follow that count, the triple dash relies on the final dash taking 2 counts, and obviously Chai's fucking footsteps are in pairs. It just makes the most sense to do things that way for the sake of the concept. So with the banging beats, simple to pick up but tricky to master combat, really great feeling controls, as well as the awesome comic visuals and silly round interstitials.
Whoop. Let's go!
The combat is off to a great start so far. My only gripe is this is obviously a replay, is that I know shakeups are coming later, so we're stuck with the baby stuff. Still, things getting more complex after level 1 is a given, so really I'm just impatient, that's what my complaint is. The littler things get explained by combos with Smidge. Smidge isn't just the best character in the game, he's the greatest character in all of fiction. His tutorials take a while because of the humorous dialogue setting them up, but I think that's fine. They're very funny, and the game doesn't have any straight up egregious time wasting shit. They like to keep stuff moving. And they're totally optional, you can just walk around the guy. So I don't see any harm in more handholdy shit that has some actual character to it. You learn something from Smidge and you get to take that into a platforming challenge or a fight pretty much instantly.
That was awesome. But I should probably get out of here.
We're still in the game's opening act. They're trying to move the story along with little tidbits here and there. Chai has learned Vandalay sees him as a disposable defect, emphasized by these videos from Rekka, so she's clearly our main antagonist for right now. But there's also this disembodied voice who wants to meet up, and Chai links up with a mecha cat called 808 belonging to the disembodied voice. Meeting 808 is cool. When you meet her, she's licking her balls. She's named after a very common electronic drum kit, well known for several distinct sounds that are used as plus effects throughout the game. 808 is the method of giving any characters not by your side a way to see and hear events, and is yet another indicator of the beat. This also gives you a combo finisher. So we stan 808 in this household. Chai decides his way out is through the QA center, despite the fact it's an obvious trap, so we gotta parkour our way over there. I don't mind the sections in this game between fights. The platforming is more than functional, even if it's really the weakest part of the game, and the scenery is always incredible. Some of the jumps can take a few tries because they never feel the most intuitive. These 2D sections they insert sometimes aren't frustrating because they're more straightforward. They're more so frustrating because the design makes them essentially walking sims for dialogue to play out. They should have made some specific fodder enemies that fly in from the foreground Klonoa style to keep them engaging. The more open spaces are fun to platform around though. When you're not gonna black screen, it feels really enjoyable to try climbing everything in sight to find some extra money or a more valuable collectible. The collectible guitar riff sounds like Bill and Ted. I also like these spaces where you can run into a bunch of fun NPCs like these Rock'em Sock'em robots or recurring characters like this box stacking guy. There's also lots of emails from Rekka to read and announcements over the loudspeaker that kind of have the same vibe as Gladys's jokes from Portal. You can already tell this game's got a great anti-corporate attitude. The devs are real rock stars.
Thanks for being dumb enough to just waltz in here.
No, honey. 4-4. I just talked about this like 2 pages ago. Rekka may be wearing a ladder belt and it may literally say boss, but she tells her bot on us for our first boss encounter. This is where we get our second needle drop. The boss is called QA1 Mil, so they play 1 million by 9 Inch Nails during the fight. I love the approach they took to using these songs. You get the fun experience of being surprised by a licensed track, but on top of that, they split up the different parts to loop at different phases of the fights, essentially turning them into custom dynamic tracks. This fight is pretty normal. You just gotta dodge 1 or 2 attacks by jumping or dashing, and then whack the hands till the health bar is empty. Doesn't mean it's not fun, and the beat and animations have me jamming the whole encounter, especially because the rest of the boss fights are about Chai's size, so this being the only stupidly big one works for me. Basic but good. I love the climax where they use the silent part of the original song to build anticipation for Chai's final blow.
Got a killer track. But every song's gotta end.
The ending is really freaking funny too, as Chai gets blasted towards the screen while the rank gets counted up. What a stylish way to show that, and it just keeps going as Chai smashes into and resets the days without defect counter. Fuck you, Rekka. Now we finally meet Peppermint, leader of a pathetic resistance to something Vandelay's been developing called Spectra. Her and Chai do not like each other at this point, so it'll be interesting to watch that change. There's nothing to do in our hideout hub for right now. I'll talk about it later, so for now let's just plow ahead with stuff. I dig the comic intros they do for all the stages. It reminds me of that one part in Spider-Verse. I mean, the whole game does, but you get it. That's something I really loved about this game being shadow dropped, really. I remember before that point, when I went to go see the original Into the Spider-Verse, I came out of that movie and I was like, the whole animation industry is about to get rocked to its core. I cannot wait to see what other studios do, and I was wondering how long it would take before we started seeing some of that influence in popular video games. 2023 was kind of a big year for that because not only did Hi-Fi Rush come out with the variable frame rates and crazy custom lighting to achieve similar comic book inspired visuals, but there were also games like Super Mario Bros. Wonder that also had incredibly stylized animation with forced perspective.
I'm here, baby.
Our mission is to sneak into Rekka's office and steal her info when she's not around. But since we hear from Rekka constantly throughout the whole stage, obviously we end up fighting her by the end anyways. She's got a heavy welcome presence throughout the whole stage through fully animated monologues, which they did not have to do, but it's such an amazing touch. Asshole-ish emails to employees. She even shows up in 2D again, lightly breaking the fourth wall through the framing to enforce her presence. Spoiler alert, Rekka's ultimate ultimately the weakest tag in the game, but she's still really fucking funny, voiced incredibly by Misty Lee.
Like a hit. That defect was spotted in my building. I'm half hoping none of you chump security get it, so I can rip them apart, piece by piece.
That 2D cutscene like the intros is great because the game always finds ways to seamlessly switch between the 3D stages and real-time cutscenes and the 2D stuff. It always takes the player off guard in the best way. Pre-rendered cutscenes have come so far since the 90s. The writing throughout this stage is smartly done too. In the back half, Peppermint becomes summonable to help out with her guns. But this is built up to by Chai and her's banter in the first half because they bicker like no tomorrow. Real sibling-like energy. I used to hate Chai because usually when you have a story where everyone's supposed to be buddies and they fucking yell at each other and screw each other over, I'm gonna turn that shit off. It's miserable. But their tenuous symbiosis is built up really well, with Chai's impulsiveness and Peppermint's temper being a driving force for inserting story and gameplay exposition.
Doesn't look like you can make this jump. But see that switch?
Let me guess.
Yep, call me in. I can activate those for you.
Ugh, you sound like a video.
Well, I mean, it works out like 99%. My favorite example is Chai expressing how cool he thinks Kale is, which causes something to bubble up in Peppermint that she doesn't want to talk about yet. She lets slip how much she admires Roxanne Vandelay, the CEO, before Kale though. On top of that, most of the exchanges are pretty funny as usual. Chai's neurodivergence leads to some great exchanges.
So Peppermint, this spectrum thingy?
The setting for this level, along with the songs that play here, make it another great stage on the presentation front. Walking into the factory and seeing all the machinery syncing up to the music is just an unreal experience. The music is groovy as well, especially in that second half. Tying into Chai and Peppermint starting to actually work together a little more and using allies in the field, the song Some People Call This Teamwork kicks in and really sets the tone, sounding slightly more optimistic with a more upbeat rhythm compared to the first half's track. Having Peppermint pop in is amazing musically too. From what I can tell, her gun animations are randomized, so she'll either hit 16th notes or triplet notes.
Come on!
So cool, that's what I'm talking about. Also, if you can't tell right now, this script was tough to edit because everything in this game is so cool and is what I'm talking about, so I have to have a thesaurus pulled up on the side. It's joyous agony. So many staple mechanics are paced out masterfully in the stage, but because of their use in combat, I'd say the biggest things are allies and the magnet pull. So with allies, you can tap buttons to summon them one at a time. In combat, they drop in, do their thing and dip, and then have a small cooldown. Pro tip, your strategy should always be to summon the right one as often as possible to rack up damage quickly. In the overworld, they interact with specific obstacles, while in combat, they help with specific defenses or just rack up damage. So I think they're stronger in the stronger part of the game. Peppermint specifically is used to shoot stuff from a distance with her gunnies, both hitting switches and breaking these electro barriers. Both are signaled by blue hexagons, so you can associate the method forward by both color and shape. Semiotics in action, baby! The magnet is used to just move through the stage. It's fun when they chain them because the action takes 3 beats, which has a cool rhythm, but it's not very dynamic with the exception of having to notice when they're tossing them in front of you last second. In combat, it's better, of course. You use it to pull yourself to enemies when they keep getting knocked away from you, but that's all she wrote. Even less dynamic is the rhythm jump pads. They just send you upwards and make you press the button. I still like it because, you know, music. I do have something interesting to say bouncing off of this though, because these pads were in the game as early as its prototype. Yes, we have clips courtesy of GDC of this game's earliest stages with default Unreal Engine assets. Looking at this, you can tell they got all the pieces in place right away before production fully started, and the game supposedly was secretly worked on for like 6 years, so they clearly put in the effort to focus on small touches. It reminds me of this NPC interaction before the boss.
Bigger, stronger. Is this promo for Rekka or motivation for the rest of us? I'm trying to make this a better place to work, and look at you, showing off.
Is this an HR matter?
Figures you don't see it. You think this encourages them? Nah, it's just a reminder. You don't have what it takes. The workers here need to know they ain't ever getting out of that hole they dug themselves into. This world is sick, dark, sad.
But we are supposed to help.
Help? Impossible. We just mask the reality, give an illusion we care. We can't change anything. The cards are stacked too high against us. This poster stays. It says the truth.
Not suspicious at all.
Introducing
You want to be successful? You want to be productive? Then you gotta be aggressive.
Yeah, so Rekka is the second boss fight in Hi-Fi Rush. Her opening cutscene has huge wrestling vibes, so do her special attacks. This long animation that serves as the punishing grab attack is endlessly funny as Chai gets twisted around. You're constantly dodging and looking for openings, and using both your magnet and peppermint to close in and keep distance is really fun. This part in the middle reminds me of Sonic Unleashed's Quick Steps, a perfectly functional fight and still fun by all accounts. However, Rekka is also the weakest fight in the game. Even with the wrestler motif and crazier consequences for not dodging, the QA robot's size made its simplicity still impressive. Here you're fighting more or less a beefier regular enemy with a grab attack. Knowing the fights that come later on, the abilities that come later kind of dilute this one's effectiveness. Later, you'll be summoning, parrying, and stunning the bosses left and right, having a crazy back and forth with all your abilities. You just can't do that here because you're so limited. Even that fun grab attack gets outdone later by other bodies' personalities and the fact that the animation is very long. That and the fight has the worst needle drop in the entire game by far. There's a couple songs covered by an artist called Elsinore on the director's twitter.com account. It turns out this was a temporary in-house band that did some custom covers for a couple boss fights to make them fit into the game's context a bit more. That's great. The song they did later on was fucking perfection, but this one sucks. Not because of the cover, but because the original just kind of blows too. It's a loud rock song, but not in a fast-paced way. It's really slow and doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. The original does have a leg up because there's silly sound effects in the mix that give it some personality, but it's really the tempo that kills it for me. The lyrics fit the fight really well though. You think you're radical, but you're not so radical. In fact, you're fanatical. This fits from either Chai's perspective facing Rekka or Rekka's perspective looking down on Chai. But like I said, the sound of this song is ass. Even the streaming mode song, Captive Normals, suffers from this tempo musically. Being the weakest fight isn't such a crime. Like I said, it's still plenty of fun. Just the least fun. Afterwards, Chai accidentally rings up the rest of Vandelay's head honchos and brags that he took out Rekka. The smaller interactions between everyone on the phone makes me excited to fight them. It's small but well done stuff that shows off all their big personalities and raises the stakes.
Is this some sort of joke?
Oh, now this is a juicy meeting.
Do you want me to reschedule this?
Zanzo, I think you're muted, honey.
I was going to say... Corsica, get your people to production right away.
Speaking of the stakes, using Rekka's USB, Peppermint shows off that Spectra is an AI that can mind control anyone with Vandelay body parts. While Chai expresses blissful indifference towards AI because he doesn't think a big company would use it to undermine the general population's well-being, Peppermint, a knowledgeable and creative person, doesn't want this AI tech to be implemented and affect the general population's well-being.
Chai, get there yet?
Ow. Yeah, I think I found it.
We're now going after Zanzo of R&D. Most bosses have a presence across a couple stages, giving the story several arcs. I really like how they paced that first one with Chai learning how to defend himself as a defect, leading into tenuously helping Peppermint by entering Rekka's territory, leading to that fight, and afterwards a full introduction of all the bad guys after establishing this Sonic-like 2 acts with a boss structure. Vandelay's R&D unit is underground using magma as its power source, so we get a lava level. I love lava levels, and every video game has at least one. The Phrygian scales and heavy instrumentations just give me the best warm feeling. And the music here is heavy with constant strong riffs. The level design was good, but didn't have anything crazy new of note. They don't introduce any new combat mechanics till later in the level, so it's more of the epic same for this part. And I don't think it's a crime for level design to just be, you know, I think so many people get obsessed with if level design is good or bad, but sometimes it just is. Platforming over lava spouts and running underneath meteors is an enjoyable enough time. I discovered graffiti on the walls of each stage, and when you find it, it'll show up back at the hideout. I love graffiti as well, such a cool aesthetic and a really freeform way for people to express themselves through art, so it really fits in with the rockstar vibes of hi-fi. There is also this running gag about a robot being put in charge of the arrow signs and being given so many they feel like these arrows weren't for them but for some higher being. Amazing.
Here we are, indeed.
Terrible, Chai.
But the latter half of the stage really picks up since we get forced into doing Zanzo's weapon tests. He can't tell who we are though, because someone that isn't Peppermint is hacking the cameras.
Something's overriding our cameras to 40p. It's unviewable.
Okay, since I laughed, if we were in doing a CinemaSins video, then that would be causing me to give the scores of -1 cinematic sins is what that would be doing, to be honest. The music during these tests has thick texturing that sells the danger. We're in the belly of the beast, and damn does it feel like it. This song was done by an artist called Rio, and I just want to say, I think it's really cool when people have inexplicable names for their professional musicianship. Go listen to my album, please. This section is about parrying and rhythm parrying. Parrying is simple, just hit that button on the beat of an attack to block or counter an attack. Usually enemies will even do this little twinkle thing the beat before, so just look alive and you'll be fine. It was a shock to learn that bigger foes will hit with multiple combos, but still only twinkle once. See, there's the character action bullshit tells I was missing.
Their tell is a lack of a tell.
So that already adds a lot, but I also enjoy the rhythm parry. These happen when an enemy displays a rhythm over their head, and then you have to hit those beats back at them to defeat them. As I discussed in level 1, the rest of the gameplay firmly sticks to the grid, so it's great that there's a mechanic that breaks away from that. To throw you off, often they'll telegraph the rhythm one beat ahead of when you'll be hitting it, so until you play the rhythm back, you don't really get how it'll click into place. Then wham! After finally catching up with Zanzo's anime ass, he unfortunately kind of gets the jump on us by pulling out one of those enemies that are totally invincible without an upcoming move. Chai gets wiped, and this stage ends with a menacing cliffhanger.
I've been looking for you.
Holy crap!
It immediately gets followed up by a fake last time on segment. What a fun bit. Meet Macaron and Cinnamon, our newest allies. Macaron was the former head of R&D, but Kale replaced him with Zanzo cause he's a suck-up. Macaron was far more responsible, but more of a gentle giant. He initially doesn't want to join us in the fight being a pacifist, but it's a video game and we need a second ally, so he does. Cinnamon is really only there for the flavor text though. Talking to him between stages is hilarious because he works the little nitpicks about the plot into his dialogue. It's always such a treat, especially because you don't get time to really think about the inconsistencies with the action gameplay, but Cinnamon will bring it up anyways. It's hilarious.
There's quick access back upstairs if you go down the hallway.
Throughout this next stage, we need to convince Zanzo to overclock the AR machine by making bigger and bigger set pieces, thereby draining his budget. This leads to a lot of Family Guy funny moments like growing volcanoes, platforms fading into existence, and we even get the gift basket Chai wanted in the last stage. Never mind. Hi-Fi Rush has so much more to offer beyond its initial rhythm combat premise because the writing is very thoughtfully done. It reminds me of the Psychonauts games where you have very video gamey levels, but the way dialogue is used to frame it can be used to give a situation more context. The large majority of characters here aren't just stand-ins for tropes to just put a level in front of you. They feel like they'll actually react to new information or like their egos will have a dramatic downfall later on. It kept reminding me specifically of Teen Titans or Ben 10, two 2000s Cartoon Network action comedy shows. Chai and Peppermint especially remind me of Ben and Gwen Tennyson, with their tendency to bicker before coming to an understanding. Chai gets held in check more with each resistance member that joins as well, so he never becomes intolerable. His tendency to get off track and think on the fly pays off the more tools he has at his disposal, and the villains feel very Teen Titans with their larger-than-life personalities and a narrative thread stringing them together. And as we've been mentioning this whole time, there's so many cool little side bits to see in here. There's a hidden chest, and right by that, the detectives from previous levels complain about the futility of making people search for hidden happiness or whatever. And some unhappy robot threatens to make the coffee machines only put out decaf due to mistreatment.
Okay, go straight through there.
There's just a wall.
808 firmware updated, and we should be good to go. Try calling in Macaron.
Macaron's along for the ride now. Outside of combat, you can use his 1-2 punch to smash through doors made of the Z armor, and in combat he can knock back foes or also break said Z armor. Good addition, and he's just such a chill guy.
Is that another foreign existence I see there?
Smidge! Chai, this is one of my designs. He's pretty helpful, don't you think?
Maybe, but some of his advice is kind of an invasion of privacy, don't you think?
Really? I think he's just being nice.
The music for the early parts of this stage really feel like they were made to go along with the punching too. Very heavy beats with the bongo drums and bass line that feel even more heavily in 4/4 than any of the previous. But, and I'm sorry, there's just so much story stuff to talk about in this stage, but having the former R&D head on our side allows us to hear his views on Zanzo, as well as how Zanzo treats his employees. First of all, Zanzo says,
"All hands on deck! I have an idea that needs all the juice we've got." It doesn't fit in the schedule, so we're gonna have to crunch this one out.
We even get to see this in action. Programmers sprawled out, constantly typing without rest, trying to meet Zanzo's demands to take us down. Macaron and Cinnamon also remark throughout the stage that as head of R&D, Zanzo needs to manage a creative vision with realistic goals. So this is a direct commentary on crunch culture, a huge issue in the AAA gaming space. Zanzo and Rekka were also both massive narcissists. In terms of production, Rekka was more than willing to take credit for what her team accomplished as well, becoming the face of high production counts over all her employees. Zanzo is therefore just forcing people to work and work until a very specific vision is achieved. His vision, nobody else's. We see this a lot with people being hailed as auteurs or visionary directors only to be very abusive people placed in charge of a team. Several indie games have been through this. So if we can make these connections to topical points through these first two baddies, we can see a reading of this text where Vandelay stands for AAA gaming itself and the huge issues that plague the whole space for both employees and consumers. I'll continue to analyze this reading as we get further into the game, but I'll also take this as another reminder that you should be playing this fucking game alongside watching this video. With all that said, Zanzo's boss fight doesn't get to say much because there isn't one. It's a great fake out because without money, this type of dude becomes a fucking pushover. Ultimately, we get surrounded by Kale and his head of security, the very straight-laced and kinda dim-witted Corsica. I love how confidently he speaks until Corsica asks for literally the most basic clarification. It's a great villainous touch and it makes the performance by Roger Craig Smith feel that much more memorable.
No one is washing my brain.
Cute. But you're in my facility surrounded by security. And you. I thought we were done. Yet here you are.
Shall I take them in, sir?
Yes, of course I want you to take them in. Why else would I bring you?
This leads into one of the best set pieces in the entire game as we escape by rail and Enizawa Chainsaw by Number Girl plays. This is a Japanese punk song and it's so driving as we grind and platform through the collapsing volcano.
Broken rails ahead!
Get that magnet ready!
The streamer mode equivalent, Buzzsaw, is also really fun if a bit noisy, and the initial lyrics talk about oral sex, I'm pretty sure. So that's kind of strange, but the vibe is really energetic and fun, and the drums are awesome. Easily one of my favorite moments in the entire game, even if it ends up being a bit of a bummer as we get captured and knocked out, only to end up back at the hideout with everyone happy to see us? Very strange. But while we're chilling with everyone that matters, let's go ahead and discuss what you can do at the hideout. Basically, you can talk to Peppermint and Macaron to access several functions like the training room to practice moves on your own time, but mainly you use gears and specific collectibles to purchase items or upgrades. Normal fare for action games, you buy new combos that you can use immediately, and then you buy new passive perks or special meter attacks that you have limited slots to equip into. I don't have a problem with anything that's here. Really my only issue is the pricing, because you are not getting all these moves without playing this game so much. There's a massive post game, and obviously you can replay the very long stages, so it is doable, but it's not really something I'm interested in, and I do not want to grind money. So I prefer the game's economy to be a little more flexible, so I'd have even more toys at my disposal by the time I reach the end game. I can easily imagine that making one of my favorite games even more enjoyable. Maybe I'm out of line with that opinion though, as I don't really play character action games consistently, so if people want to argue against that, I'm okay with hearing you out. Really, the hideout is just cool aesthetically. Nice flavor text from everyone between each stage, nice aesthetic touches like filling out the mural, and you can even change costumes. There's so many good ones. And I love how despite being a shadow drop drop that could have had many trickled out updates. There's no annoying microtransactions or DLC for Hi-Fi Rush besides extra costumes. Hi-Fi Rush really came out of the oven fully baked, and the hideout really exemplifies that. It is just a hangout space to take a little breather between the main missions, which is appreciated.
Appreciate you putting your life on the line, but you gotta snap out of it.
Okay, let's get back to the main story. Everyone's sucking Chai's dick, especially Chai.
When they make a movie about this, who's gonna play me? Or better yet, when they make a video game, who's gonna be my voice actor?
Good lord. Okay, I mean, you know, that's kind of funny and all, but whoever wrote this game is a fucking Redditor. They probably wrote that and thought, I'm gonna rack up so much gold right now. I could buy a new dress for my snoo. And just like the promise of getting a massive dopamine hit by spending currency on Reddit, we're unfortunately in a dream sequence, because Chai is actually in jail where Corsica is trying to interrogate him, but he kind of rocks her world by talking about how she doesn't even know what he knows about Spectra. She evidently doesn't have access and leaves. And that's our cue to break out and start the next stage. We convince Robotron 3 million over here that we're helping fix the security nodes, so we basically do the first challenge and then can do the other two in whichever order. A pretty common level gimmick. I love the RGB color scheme in the stage. The green stays constant and the red becomes blue as you patch up busted areas. It's a clever use of colored lighting to mark your progress through a stage. I enjoy using Peppermint to knock the nodes open, and I love how they all have different rhythms. They feel like kick drums in their motion. The music in this arc differentiates itself a little bit in a really cool way. Electronic instruments sneak their way into the mix, adding some ethereal futurism to this area that makes it stick out from the AR labs and production. The combat in the stage was a little frustrating for me though. The samurai enemies do like 8 or 9 hits after one twinkle, which is fine when you can see them and prep for it, but sometimes I couldn't see that shit. Oops! Now I'm not trying to be an Aaron Hansen. It's kinda just an issue that would be inherent to this combat and nearly impossible to get right. Instead of exposing 7/8 of my ass crack, I will admit my fault and note that most enemies have clear indicators of when they'll be moving and in which direction as well. Something I can blame the game for is I equipped a new special to try out and I had to switch back because this thing would straight up not go. I kept standing still to try and use this shit. I restarted the game a couple times even and it just wouldn't go. Like, what? It's a very bizarre hiccup. Overall though, I like the new enemies introduced. I mentioned the samurai robots, but these birds also swoop in and they both have very unique rhythm parries. And the Boids will damage you if you use your magnet without staggering them, which is really clever. Neat stage even if it dips a little in quality. The start of the Corsica arc is still interesting, and it only picks up from here.
Dunzo.
That was a fun ride. I wonder what's next.
Especially stage 6, which starts off with this elaborate Baby Driver-esque sequence that's just a treat. The original song written for it, Can't Stop Us Now, is a banger, being built around a very unique rhythm.
Sorry!
It's certainly attention grabbing, and all the other elements build on top of that to keep it up. The scene itself is so exciting, with lots of fun visual gags and cool action cinematography. All of the characters get a chance to shine, both friend and foe. At this point in the story, when everyone's starting to get along in their small ways, it's a very subtle way to show the bond growing in this resistance band. I really like that the game did this in a nice long cutscene too, because there's so many ways the game has chosen to involve the music with the gameplay. For some people it could be getting a little predictable by now, especially for people who treat background music disposably because their brains don't experience frisson or whatever, and like making that everyone else's problem by saying how much they don't give a shit and they just listen to Mad Money with Jim Cramer and Post Game Clarity, which is a fun gaming podcast featuring genuine chill discussions and Simpsons references starring Dave Dorkax and Izzy-Doodle. I know I'm being insanely snarky right now, but I really like my podcast and you should follow us on YouTube and Spotify. So by having that funky as hell rhythm and basically playing a Spider-Verse music video in the middle of the game, you have to keep engaging with the incredible soundtrack. I really have to praise the team for shaking up their own formula like this. It especially works in the modern age because we can just shift right back into gameplay after a huge scene like that, and we have to defend ourselves on this tram while the song keeps playing. It's a fantastic sequence of fights where you have to play fully defensively as projectiles get lobbed at you. Later we have to smash the brakes to avoid capture and have to actively ignore enemies to get that done with a time limit. Nice changes of objective that keep the game feeling fresh, and the stage is incredibly short and sweet as a result. It was a shock upon this replay because I convinced myself that stage 7 was actually the back half of this stage, but no, the game just crammed some of its best into this tiny, endlessly replayable little segment for the hell of it. It all connects together and leads to a funny ass payoff when destroying the brakes to not die means we gotta derail the whole brig to also not die.
Don't worry, I got... Security Wing 2. And it looks like they locked me out.
Then we have to force our way in. See anything?
Construction. There might be another way.
Stage 7 is a nice long one where we take inspiration from Pixar's final jaw-dropping original film to reach Korsica's office. On the way we have a tough team discussion though, because Korsica is just as neurodivergent as Chai and memorizes her passwords. She doesn't have a passkey, and with her remorse on top of that, Chai can't just explode her to death. She's evidently looking into Spectra earnestly and activates booby traps to stall her ascent. The team agrees that we should try and convince her to join us, but unfortunately Chai does not feel like he's got the personality for that. It's a great conflict running through the whole stage that pays off great in the boss fight. But this stage has a really cool journey getting there, starting in a dingy storage room with vision obscuring shadows, and then transitioning into the tech aesthetic again where we deal with Korsica's booby traps. She keeps powering stuff down too, so things stay dim to prep us for a more somber fight. The music does that too, where each chunk that plays while platforming is a bit more serious before the fights burst out into this motivational batch of chords.
Try this out!
Let me out them.
Your turn!
John's even back to sing us to victory.
Hold eyes on.
The 2D sections where you get to climb the towers in the center remind me of that one planet from Mario Galaxy. They're probably the best 2D section in the game for making me feel anything. The final climb right before the end of the stage where you magnet jump and the camera keeps tilting is so rad.
Heard you like air ducts.
We accidentally crash in on Corsica, who is very beautiful, who is very vulnerable at this time. That's what she is. Unfortunately, story-wise, but very fortunately gameplay-wise, Chai is incredibly abrasive. There's enough jokes about how stupid he's being to keep him from being unlikable, though.
You broke into my office! You destroyed my security!
To peacefully resolve this.
Wow. Do you even listen to what you say?
I love how the different stakes in the story lead to a different type of boss fight. I simply have to try and wear Corsica down, which leads to a series of custom rhythm parries as we converse with our enemy. This leads to an extra polished and cinematic sequence. There's no licensed track. The original song Negotiation plays and changes throughout the evolving moods of the fight. And since Chai and Corsica keep marching in a circle to try and hold their distance, the environment that you see as a rotating backdrop has so much detail in it, and the lighting is the cherry on top as it dims in quieter parts of the fight and becomes drenched in red when Corsica gets more intense.
I know you're not like the others, Corsica. You can feel something's wrong. Or are you just too oblivious to figure that out?
Oh, come on!
That's it. Now I'm mad.
To top it off, we even get a whole new rhythm parry. Google, stop it with the autocorrects. Rhythm parry mechanic where they'll signal a dodge as part of the rhythm. This approach to the fight also really shows off how talented all these VAs are, and they all sound different from each other too. Macaron is British, and Corsica seems to be an attempt at being Scottish, probably.
I'll make sure you stay down this time.
Hot. But I can buy Corsica's bursts of anger and confusion and Chai's warming up to her throughout the fight because everyone's just doing such a fantastic job embodying the person they play.
You think you can strong-arm me?
Hey, you chose to fight. Wait, you like puns too?
What? No. Whatever. Let's see how you handle this.
When you take all the pieces of presentation together, you have not only a really fun set of parries, but a well-executed scene that feels like the type of emotional climax you'd see in a Cartoon Network episode. You can really sense that Corsica feels betrayed by a job she tried so hard to do her best for, and in return they looked down on and gatekept her, and lacked the values she believed they had. I think a lot of people can relate to that, heck, myself included. I adore the way the music adds strings to intensify the first part of the fight, but as Corsica gets worn down in this scene, they strip it all back. The guitar gets more mournful, synths are added, and a clapping chorus chimes in to kind of key into the more sensory overloading aspect of the revelation Corsica's going through.
I worked hard for this job. I won't just give it up.
What are you doing this for? Kale?
What does it matter?
He doesn't care about you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have kept you in the dark.
You don't know that.
I know you're not like the others, Corsica. You can feel something's wrong.
Chai, you are surprisingly convincing.
De-escalating. I think we may have a chance.
And to end the fight, we have to catch her after knocking her out. It's completely possible to miss this. I did on my first playthrough, and I think that's such a cool touch. Unfortunately, our escape plan doesn't quite work out as Kale uses a huge robot to blow up our lift and almost kill Corsica. But with the power of good robotics, Peppermint, Macaron, and Cinnamon give her a cyborg heart, solidifying her decision to help out with better insider knowledge. I really like the dynamic everyone has. Peppermint, Macaron, Cinnamon, and Corsica are all super smart, but have different driving character traits. Peppermint is very serious and quick to anger, Macaron is more meek and kind-hearted, Cinnamon is blunt and silly, and Corsica is self-serious and soft-spoken as well as a bit literal. Chai is the only really dumb one, but his willingness to act and not be held back by inhibitions is driving a revolution at this point. I'm totally in love with the cast of the game by this point, and chilling in the hideout is fucking unreal.
Quite the spectacle.
Yeah, fireworks and everything. Marketing budget now is higher than even development.
What happened to this company?
I know what you mean.
Sir Macaron, your negativity is ruining the festive mood.
All right, heading in.
Using new intel, we decided to take on Mimosa, who's the huge narcissist at marketing. She's hosting a huge concert for Project Armstrong participants, so we're gonna bash her skull in before she goes on stage. But since she's under security, we sneak through the Vandalay Museum. This stage is really interesting because it lets a lot of visual flair and gags seep more naturally into the level design. My favorite examples of this are the evolutionary lineage of robots and this Z-shielding that's just being used as a museum prop. There's also this really cool bit where you battle on top of a chandelier that crashes to the floor mid-scuffle. To move the plot along, Mimosa discovers you early on to go, ugh, you're alive. Ugh, Corsica. Ugh. You know, really flaunting her ego. She even tries to dismiss the fact that you've been killing her compatriots.
A notice to all employees. The rumors about the demise of department heads has been greatly exaggerated.
She is marketing after all. Spinning must be spun. Her toying with you makes for a great through line to drive the stage. Her and the world get fleshed out more with the guided tour sections. There's cardboard cutouts used to explain how Vandalay was a nothing startup that Kale brought to true greatness once he slid in. Peppermint is quick to point out that Roxanne really was a great inventor that put helping people over profit, and there's even an email that explains these cardboard cutouts were quickly brought in as a replacement for more accurate robotic displays. Vandalay propaganda. It reminds me of the end of Avatar where the characters watch a play about their whole adventure, but since their foes are putting it on, it makes their characters out to be ugly, stupid, and evil while propping up the villains. It's a similar narrative beat here, and seeing Peppermint get more and more upset with each exhibit ropes us into how tragic this is. It's very emotionally effective, and another great display of how the powerful get to kind of set how history is understood by the masses, which happens a lot in the games industry as older releases are unavailable and at times actively ignored to incentivize buying more expensive current releases, as well as the great emulation debate, which is really only a debate if you're upset you can't squeeze another $5 extra out of people for fucking Super Mario Brothers. The stage isn't perfect. There's a few platforming challenges that use Corsica's gimmick, which is using a tornado to overclock generators and make timed platforming challenges. I love how pumped up Chai and Corsica get when working together. It's so cutie. But these ask a lot of the player, and with shifting the camera around and having to swap to other allies, you'll probably totally fail. That means you'll have to do the whole Corsica QTE again, and then do your best to make it this time. Not game ruining, but trial and error gameplay doesn't suit Hi-Fi very well. Unlike the other summons, Corsica fares better in battle. You can use her to put out flames, break hard-shelled enemies to stun them, and if they're stunned, you can use her to keep them down. Very multifaceted, so she's really fun to use in combat as a result. I also liked the fights where electronic floors would toggle on and off underneath you. It literally keeps you on your toes. After the final exhibit continues to prop up Kale, Peppermint totally loses it because, well, Kale's her brother, and she ran away from home a while ago, feeling guilty now that her mom's gone missing. Especially because Roxanne made a prosthetic for her daughter, which was also kind of the whole point of the Vandalay company, and now that's being used by Kale to mind control people. With the whole disabled characters thing, I'm really shocked this game didn't get shouted at for being woke, but I'm also really glad that didn't happen.
Disabled people.
In the scene, there's some jokes at Chai's expense here, sure, but it's also a pretty sincerely presented moment. He actually tries to cheer her up for once. Everybody does. They're just better equipped than Chai. This group of people is really learning to appreciate and care for one another despite their differences. I fucking love this damn game, you guys.
Here I come, Mimosa.
Chai, just follow that hallway and you'll be at her dressing room.
It's time to take out Mimosa with a new resolve. Only problem is she's already headed to the stage, so to follow her, Chai joins the show.
I'm on my way to the stage, dressed as a shark. Ask me anything.
Man, a bunch of Redditors really did write this game. The music for the stage is simply perfect. The thumping big band drums and piano chords keep hyping you up for the sick-ass boss fight. and the final loop in the composition even bleeds into the intro cutscene for the fight.
One of my good friends is here. I am the Queen of Spin, and this is my show. Assistance! And you out there, get ready for a show! Now hit it!
Now fuck me sideways, dude. Run that back again. And what a fight it is. One of the very best in the whole game. Elsinore redeems themselves. I mean, their cover of Free Radicals may not have been the best, but the song choice of Fast As You Can by Fiona Apple, the acclaimed singer-songwriter, the same Fiona Apple who got her song featured in the hit film and SNL creative incest pit Bridesmaids, where Kristen Wiig falls in and out of love with an openly abusive police officer like 50 times. That Fiona Apple? Wait a minute, this might be kind of flipping awesome, you guys. Caleb Brown provides vocals for a very jazzy, perhaps even Bond-inspired cover of the song.
You say you don't smoke easy, you don't go, but I know and I pray that you will. Fast as you can, baby, run free yourself of me fast as you can.
I love how her in-air dodge goes on the offbeat, and everything is fast and frantic with her shooting lasers and hitting you with these parry balls. The lyrics are extremely fitting once again, with the narrator telling their partner to get away from her as fast as they can because they have a mental illness making them act irrationally. With the lyrics, "My pretty mouth will frame the phrases that will disprove your faith in man," we hear the idea of a two-faced person who uses words to manipulate people by lifting them up or putting them down. And if that doesn't scream the Queen of Spin, I don't know what does. The streamer mode equivalent, My Heart Feels No Pain, is a duet between a male and female singer where the guy is initially drawn in to dance with this lady before realizing how much of a liar she is. She expresses that he wouldn't be hurt if he didn't know.
You spun your web, put your lies, thought I didn't know. They're not secrets, not lies if you don't know. You played your games, parlor magic, let your hand show. They're not secrets, not lies if you don't know. You turned your head, stopped my heart, cause I didn't know. They're not secrets, not lies if you don't know.
I love the level of intentionality in using both songs, applying the idea of this distrustful romantic relationship to show how Chai is now disillusioned with Mimosa's PR language, as well as how manipulative she is by nature. It's just genius. The fight is built around using Corsica and Peppermint to stun her as quickly as possible and keeping her down, but Mimosa doesn't go down easy and introduces many different tactics: flying, hiding in darkness, trapping you in a laser light cage, and my personal favorite, slapping. More video games should allow you to be slapped by Russian-coded women, in my opinion. She even throws in a straight-up dance battle for good measure. This fight truly has it all.
No, it's not you, never you. You always say it's me. But I'm gonna let the curtain fall, let it fall. So damn tired of always tightrope walking on your web of lies. You spin and spin, oh, you spin.
And by the end, she learns there's some things you just can't spin. No matter how many PR statements with clean graphic design you make, or how many great announcements or live performances related to your IP you get Jeff to stuff in his big end of your show, or how big your stock prices bump up per quarter due to layoffs, that doesn't mean people will never wise up to your mistreatment. I mentioned the amazing streamer mode song for the Mimosa boss and several of the others, but I want to give them a chance for the limelight because I did miss a couple. All of the songs were written by this band called the Glass Pyramids, and they're clearly very talented based on these streamer mode songs. It's really cool that this game took shitty music copyright into consideration for the fans from the get-go. I of course love the idea that since Chai has his MP3 player in his chest, songs he's curated can pop out for big emotionally charged fights. It's a really great concept for implementing the diverse licensed tracks and covers. But man, copyright claims for content creators are impossible to avoid, so having a streamer mode with original songs for each of these scenes was a great call. What is unfortunate is that most of them just can't match the exact same level of hype as their equivalent. That's obviously okay, not the band's fault, not the developer's fault, not anybody's fault, but for example, Buzzsaw just isn't Inazawa Chainsaw, you know? By necessity, these Glass Pyramid songs need to match the overall sound and tempo of the licensed songs, so some of them just miss by virtue of direct comparison. They become Diet Track X. However, on their own terms, they're mega awesome. There are even some that match the licensed tracks in terms of hype. The Beacon, which replaces Lonely Boy in the opening, ended up in my Spotify Wrapped because I just could not stop listening to it. It's so exciting and catchy. I love their take on Hi-Fi's opening where they describe a sailor being drawn in by the siren song, Vandalay, but gets back on track because of the lighthouse beacon, which ties in with Chai making more allies on his journey.
Over the howling wind, your voice rescues me. Oh, yeah, yeah. I hear the sirens calling me, baby. Oh, yeah, yeah. But I see your light shining out to me. Keep me off the rocky shore. Keep me off the ocean floor.
The QA1 Mill boss gets the song Too Big to Fail, which tells me the pyramids like the scale of the fight just as much as I did. It's a great hype track that might be derivative of the Nin song, but is that really a crime? Captive Normals is just a stinker, but that's the licensed track's fault, straight up. That tempo just kills me listening to it. I just do not like how it feels.
I won't be held anyone's captive. Not again. Never again.
I showed off Buzzsaw and My Heart Feels No Pain already, and there's still more coming up, of course, so I'll make sure to squeeze them in at those points. But here's something really fun we could do with these licensed tracks right now. Let's rank them all. Later on, I'll make a list out of all the licensed tracks too. At this point, you can't really get spoiled based on the titles to the streamer mode ones though, so I'll stack them up right now. At number 10, we have The Fizzith. Number 9, Captive Normals. Yes, there is a song below Captive Normals. Number 8, Synesthesia. Number 7, Intruder. Number 6, In a Blink. Number 5, Buzzsaw. Number 4, Too Big to Fail. Number 3, Surfacing. Number 2, My Heart Feels No Pain. And number 1, The Beacon. Here's the full list by itself. This is also one of those lists where the emotional space between entries is kind of far apart at times. That's great and all. Meanwhile, Kale has gotten so fed up. It's just him and Finance, this guy named Roquefort, left, and they've both decided to shut down the entire campus. Fortunately, Chai's got a plan to get past all the extra security. Before that, though, let's highlight this really great conversation about the delicate balance between finances and proper R&D.
All I know are the arguments. R&D wants money to create, finance wants it done cheaper. But creating things that are good, it's not a science. It cannot be calculated. Roxanne understood that. She knew things took time and made sure we had what we needed. But Roquefort, it was all about the contribution. I mean, I know that's how business works, but I thought we were more than that.
It's clear that this game is made by people with an intimate understanding of the games industry, right? Only people with lived experience would be capable of writing such a clear-cut but nuanced back and forth. It feels like between crunch culture and layoffs, this conversation's been had about 1,000 times by just about everybody, but having people from within the industry find a clever method to express themselves about the topic really elevates the exchange, I feel.
All right, here we go.
For those not in the know, this is a direct reference to an almost identical scene from the game Xenogears. What's famous about Xenogears is how tumultuous the game's development was, to the point the devs almost ran out of time, so they made the hard decision to have a big chunk of the story on the second disc literally be told to you in like literally just like this. Like there's fucking slow fading in text, and they literally just dump fucking lore and the story on you so that they could fucking finish on time and get the whole story told in one game.
That was literally what happened. We actually reached out to Square Enix, and we were like, hey, we want to do this sort of homage to Xenogears. To us, it wasn't like mocking. It was kind of, that's very like, it's almost like a famous part of how like the sort of the transition happens in that game.
Right.
And we showed them that scene, and they were like, and it was like, that's it? Like, it was like
they thought you're gonna have the whole thing. Faye was gonna be
I think they were thinking like we're gonna have these like maybe like we're gonna like recreate like the gears or something like that.
Right, right.
It's just he's gonna sit in the chair and he's gonna talk about what he's doing like this scene, and
even the lawyers are like, what are you worried about, dude? Like, this is fine.
Yeah, they're like, do you want to use the music? And I was like, no, it's just like we want to just kind of do that.
Easily one of the funniest bits Hi-Fi Rush has to offer, and one of the best ways that Hi-Fi Rush demonstrates its knowledge of gaming tropes with an incredibly affectionate homage. They used it to kind of lampshade quote-unquote missing content here, because we see Chai reach the top of a building after a bunch of really cool fights we don't even get to see.
Let's never mention this again.
Okay, moving on then. Dickhead. This stage is amazing because it's basically non-stop fights and it keeps you on your toes. First, there's the cannon defense, which is hilarious. Then we end up crashing into the enemy lunchroom.
I hope no one noticed.
This is one of the best moments of the game, as we have to fend off seemingly endless common enemies while some really well-placed dubstep plays. Invaders Must Die by Prodigy, which makes the fight intense with a beat that's pounding non-stop.
Ready?
What?
No one messes with Vandalay cuisine.
Intruder, the stream mode equivalent, isn't as good, but still enjoyable. I enjoy the chiptune solo at the very end. Hi-Fi Rush is one of the rare games where it starts pretty good and pretty exciting and just gets better and better, really great and really exciting by the stage as crazier and crazier ideas get introduced. Even when the stage slows down a little bit in this atrium area, it carries us with this infectious energy as we storm further in. A bird knocks us down from our path, so we have to fight and explore across a bunch of chandelier office cubicles and even smash through a massive Kale statue to reach the boss. Such a creative stage that has us climbing up rapidly to a climax. The only downside of that is that the stage can't really build up to the boss. With limited time left, Roquefort hasn't had any time to have a threatening presence. Zanzo, Corsica, and Mimosa all got 2 stages of focus, even Rekka technically did. Even with most of the second stage just being the Mimosa boss fight, like she's so freaking funny, and she is marketing. She's been around the whole game, so she's always been in the back of the player's mind through a whole playthrough. Roquefort does not matter until right after we cross his threshold. He definitely gets really funny bits like talking throughout this stage, and then of course the phone call before his boss fight.
Hello?
You sure made an entrance, lad. If you'd come for me, I'd walk away.
You trying to make a deal? Come on, man.
Do you think I'd let you spoil our plan? Leave profits on the table?
This isn't about money.
It always is. You get in our way, you'll see red.
And the idea that he feels indebted to Kale is interesting, but it never really gets expanded on, because this fight insists on more of a joke ending to such a I don't want to say non-character, I'll say barely character. Like at this point in the game, I feel like we should have had a more somber ending to the boss fight because we're at the fucking end of the game. I would like for the stakes to be ramping up a little bit more. The fight is, of course, very cool in its own right though. To some fruity European DJ's Beethoven remix, you have to hold off a giant wolf transformation.
Here we go!
I really like the idea of this fully self-serious cyborg getting an electronic remix of a classical song. It's so fitting, and even if the song is a little repetitive, I don't mind it. The streaming mode song, the Fizzith, yep, the number tenor, suffers once again from having to just be a diet version of the OG, especially because this OG is an instrumental. The similarities are just so close that I'd rather never have to deal with listening to the streamer mode track, honestly. A downside created from necessity. It's mostly standard with just blocking and laying on the damage, but when his health is low enough in each phase, he runs away. It reminds me of a few bosses from Zelda Twilight Princess. Unfortunately, the boss doesn't radically change as it goes along, just block and whack and then chase and whack. I do enjoy the very final phase where he swims around in money. I want to stress, all these boss fights are good. Great even. Roquefort skews right above Rekka though, unfortunately. The beats are great if slightly repetitive, and that goes for the combat parts of the fight as well. But fortunately, we don't have to dwell on that for too long, cause now we just gotta go up an elevator to reach Kale. But obviously everybody's pretty nervous, so Chai steps in and helps to cheer everybody up. Give him some confidence. I enjoyed the subtle ways Chai has grown without ditching the parts of his personality that make him endearing and funny to follow during the action stages. He teaches everyone else that you can solve problems by improvising and diving in head first, but he's also clearly learned that he can't do everything by himself and needs to meet people where they're at too. It really feels like a well done cartoon arc. Like Chai or Grunkle Stan or Beast Boy, they're not gonna drop their selfish tendencies after one episode, but that doesn't mean they can't become overall better people. If this game gets a direct sequel, it'd be legitimately interesting to see what they do with Chai from this point onwards. And I love how everyone expresses the gratefulness they have to Chai. There's some really sweet conversations here. Now, we're about to discuss the entire climax of Hi-Fi Rush. I've been liberal with spoilers because I did the whole book club speech at the start, and I had some cheeky reminders, but clearly I respect the fuck out of this game, as I believe everyone should. You know that book, 100 Games Everyone in the World Has to Play Before They Pass On from This Mortal Coil? I think I got the title right, but this game is in my personal version of that book. Basically, what I'm trying to express is, please do not watch this next segment without finishing the game for yourself. The more I've worked on this project throughout most of this year, right after my first playthrough, I can confirm it isn't recency bias. Hi-Fi Rush is easily one of my favorite games ever, and I'm glad to discuss it, but considering this is one of the only story discussions I've been able to find in video form, I do not want to ruin it for anybody who is even vaguely interested. The game's $30 or less if you can find it on sale, and it's like 10 hours. Like I said at the beginning, you can beat it in a week or two. Obviously, I can't tell you what to do, but do the right thing.
This is it, everyone.
I can't believe it.
At the top of the elevator, we find out that Roxanne got mind-controlled by her own son, just like he wants to do to everybody with robotic implants. This is heartbreaking for Peppermint, of course, and it's such a shocking revelation that Kale would stoop to the low of usurping his mom's business like this. But to what end? We need answers.
I know you probably think Spectra is nefarious, but I disagree. It's simply nudging people into the Vandelay ecosystem. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to make something people actually want to buy? It's ridiculously hard! Hey, a new whatever! Well, what color, what model, size, speed, do I need it? All that stress, gone. Because we'll subconsciously make that decision for you.
This really ties the whole discussion of the games industry, or really any artistic industry, together. What's behind leaders stepping on employees? Bloated egomaniacal passion projects or mismanaged teams leading to crunch? Passionate teams having information withheld from them? And dick-sucking, rep-protecting glitz and glamour? What's the companies? Corporations with all the time and money, and at the end of the day, they just want 1 million units sold no matter what. This causes all of these awful behaviors to spill out and waterfall down the tiers of people, not just to overwhelmed employees, but to the customers who can't really meaningfully vote with their wallets in many cases. I obviously advocate for art above everything else on this channel. I might discuss marketing and business, but that's only because 1, it is a big part of most games development and history, and 2, a lot of popular creatives only get to mess around with weirdo concepts and formulas because there's financial demand for it to begin with. They or their creativity becomes the product. In that regard, you have to care about marketing mambo jumbo. I don't do it because I want to be thinking about this type of stuff all the time. I think a lot of people agree, and I can really empathize with active pirates as a result. This is a very Rockstar thematic focus, and so obviously that's why it's up to Chai and the gang to put an end to it. Before we can do that with actual gameplay though, we have to sit through our rhythm game QTE to call attention to Chai's finished arc. Based on how I described that, you can probably guess I'm mixed on the scene. I like it how it is because it matches with what I established about Chai growing to respect his teammates and how they believe in him. This makes him the rock star he wanted to be. But part of me is always going to wish that his teammates joined him in shattering the barrier. They're all rock stars. This is the band coming together. Really, that's a slight nitpick though. We get to play through one of the best stages in video game history right after anyways.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Someone get me a cortado.
Coffee machine's only putting out decaf, sir.
What? And now, this?
Hey, Cal! We got beef!
Okay, screw this.
Mission briefing! Team, split up and let's get this jackass.
God, that intro genuinely makes me feel like I'm watching a kick-ass movie, with that feeling only being enhanced by the amazing choice of licensed song. Worrying by the band The Joy Formidable is a beautiful and uplifting rock song. Like most of these licensed picks, I'd really recommend you listen to it. It feels really distinct too, with its use of 3-measure patterns at the start really begging for your attention, while the 3-note repetition they use keeps you in a great mood. And with the bass line, it combines in the game's context to give you that I got this feeling. Especially when they let loose with the patterns and play a more traditional 4-measure bar during the chorus. I love the chorus and the section it releases into from Surfacing, the streaming mode version as well. Both songs are so joyous and heartful, with the Glass Pyramids version really driving a more rocky feel home here. Both incredible listens. Please seek them out. Obviously for the final boss they can go more dark and intense, but I'm really glad they didn't do that for the final stage. A lot of games are like, oh, everything's riding on this, everything's getting scary and miserable, but I love how the band knows how much they've turned the tables, and if they work together they can finish this out. So a more motivational victory lap atmosphere really makes the scene and its place in construction unforgettable to me. I wasn't exaggerating earlier, it really is one of my favorite video game stages of all time. In the back half, Zanzo's unfinished robot even pulls up as the main conflict. It doesn't feel forced, because it's a great way to bring the earlier joke anticlimax full circle, and it truly feels like Kale wants you dead and he's just tossing whatever he could possibly have left at you. And it leads to a fantastic moment for Cinnamon where he uses the robot's arm alongside everyone else to take it out Incredibles style. This causes Cinnamon to take a lot of damage, and obviously he's fine since he's a robot, but we do have to leave him behind for the final battle. At least they didn't do a fake out death though. I think that would have been too cheesy for me. Unfortunately, Kale does get one more over on us and shows off what Spectra can do by incapacitating Chai for a bit. But you can't keep a rock star down, at least the good ones anyways. And even if Chai needs some recovery time, a very surprising friend steps in to slow Kale down.
Yeah, well, that's the point. I'm controlling him.
Yes, 808. We get to play as the cat.
Is this a joke? You think I can't deal with a cat?
As 9 Inch Nails' The Perfect Drug kicks in, we get a nice unexpected gimmick to start our final boss, which is a great tone setter. Nobody was even considering playing as 808, but it makes everything feel so cohesive in the story. I can imagine a version of the game where there's a few moments forcing you to use 808 and she has to go through a hole and do some mid-ass puzzle, but they saved it for the single time it'd be most impactful. She stands up for you after your entire journey together. 808 can't do a whole lot, but it's just for a couple hits, so the fun surprise doesn't get the chance to wear off.
You make me hard when I'm all stuck inside.
Once Chai's back in action, we get a really great tough marathon of a final boss. The arena is the dingiest and most metallic the game looks, with dark shades of gray taking up most of the color palette, and most of Kale's attacks landing in white like they're the hardest hitting shit ever with the contrast. I also love the streaming mode song, In a Blink. This one does the legwork to catch up with The Perfect Drug. The lyrics describe a vampire sucking blood out of the narrator. It's clear that the intention is to have that vampire be representative of Kale's attitudes to simply control everyone by force.
When I said it was understood, you had control once you lowered your hood. My pulse quickened to impossible speed. Your fangs sunk deep and you began to feed.
I think that honestly fits even better than The Perfect Drug lyrically, although you could say Kale having control over people is drug-like in a way. In either case, musically, both of these songs bring the fucking hype for this climactic battle. Difficult parries and dodges with unrelenting pursuit, a phase that requires you to use your allies for specific counters, sick rhythm parries, and even rhythm segments to close out the fight. The fight with Kale is a fantastic closeout to the game's story.
And this is game over!
This is just too much work.
Alright, other than this one song that plays in the credits, which, wait a minute, I guess I could just play that right now. Sweet, okay, now that we've heard every licensed track in the game, let's rank them. At number 10, we of course have Free Radicals, fuck that song. At number 9, Wolfgang's 5th Symphony. Wolfgang's 5th Symphony. Number 8, Invaders Must Die. Number 7, Honestly by Zwan, which plays in the credits. Number 6, 1 Million. I think I might have just pissed some people off with that. Number 5, Lonely Boy. Number 4, The Perfect Drug. Number 3, Fast As You Can. Number 2, Inazawa Chainsaw. And at number 1, we have Whirring. It's interesting, isn't it? This is very, very different from the streamer mode list. Anyways, I don't want to dwell too much on ranking stuff. Hi-Fi has way more to offer. I hope yapping non-stop for the last like 80 minutes has demonstrated that to everybody. There's still tons of post-game content to go after even though Spectra is shut down, but I'll save the surprise of that for you to find out, just as a slight fuck you if you ignored my spoiler warnings. Teehee. Something I really appreciate is that after all his boasting and then growing to work with others and plan more, Chai begins learning to play the guitar. I can imagine after leading an entire revolution against a capitalist tyrant, he finally figured out the value of sticking with things like friendships and practicing hobbies. After bragging about how he'll be a future rock star, he's truly starting the path to becoming one by taking one step at a time. As I said earlier, I'd love to see where they take his character in another game. With the cartoony approach to storytelling, I can imagine them taking a slightly serialized episodic approach, which would be great to see. I want to see all these characters in a later stage in their journeys, honestly. I could also picture it being super funny to catch up with the characters several years on. I just love this cast and what they stand for, especially Peppermint. She's just like me for fucking real. For now, we can rest easy knowing that Roxanne is having everybody work to rehabilitate the company and actually make the world a better place. Much like this game did, Hi-Fi Rush is great for so many reasons both in and outside of itself. Every opportunity is taken to use an artistic technique that's not just flashy but communicates a legitimate personality and message about how it feels to work in the games industry and the value of rebellious, loud creativity over bog-standard money-making practices, as well as expanding your own horizons just for the sake of it. Its legacy of being dicked over really sucks because sure, it's widely available, but it ironically caused people to talk about the game being dicked over instead of how the game talks about how games workers are getting dicked over. It's one of those situations where people kind of demonstrate love for the game, but they don't take the message home with them, or more likely, they haven't finished the game and don't get told the message. That's kind of an interesting thought experiment I go through a lot. I'm poetic enough to say that certain titles are some of my best friends, but it only got that way because I took the time to get to know them instead of holding them at a distance after enough time together. I really think a big issue with the video game industry and video game fans and people who aspire to actually discuss games is the tendency to get stuck on the idea that games are just a product. And yeah, we want our purchase to be worth it. We want to be entertained by a polished, well-executed experience, but I think a lot of people miss the point even in discussing a game that you can't have the full picture if you don't give it to yourself. I'm not saying that impressions of a game straight up don't matter and that we shouldn't listen to our gut if a game's straight up making us miserable. Heck, in my 2024 GOTY list, I included a game I'm nowhere close to done with yet, and a game that was like really mid but still struck a chord with me. But I don't know, this might seem a bit obvious given the saying, but sometimes the destination is still part of the journey, because the journey is not just one annoying boss fight or level, it's all the boss fights and all the levels and every piece of texture work, piece of music, writing, animation, voice performance, connections to previous levels, expression of a full vision, and even the art of the programming team's compression efforts to get an executable file to a decent size for consumers. It's like people say in pop psychology all the time, your feelings are valid, but let's not stop there because our feelings need to be examined. They're not always reasonable. I hear from so many people around me that the reasons they drop games are because they got bored or they have a million other games to play. That's a very common experience with games enthusiasts, one that I've had plenty of times myself. And sure, those are valid feelings, right? Wanting to experience as many games as possible to show love to the medium. But in those situations, have we not just kind of devalued, objectified even, multiple pieces of multimedia art all at once? That's a game we just dropped for the next, and we'll never experience the team behind its full vision. How ironic, right? This game makes it incredibly easy to have this discussion with yourself. Heck, they even made a bonus track called Making Things is Hard. Applying this discussion to the case of Hi-Fi Rush, I want to see more people actually internalize what this full game story is about and turn that kindness towards other pieces of art and let everything drive you to create. That's what I want to do after making this video. Let's go retry that game you dropped halfway through and see if the writers had something to share with you. Go draw that weird idea that keeps popping in your head, listen to some album you've never heard before, and learn about a new genre of music. And even if it's not for you, try to grow as a person and find something about it that you did like and pursue that. Be hi-fi and feel that rush. God, that line was corny. That's probably why my wife left and took the kids. Well, guess it's time to lock in for Kingdom Hearts.